The tiny grave, the sky was heavy with dark clouds, and rain fell slowly over the broken land. The ground was muddy, scattered with ruins of homes that once stood tall. Smoke still rose in the distance from fires that had not gone out since the war ended. In the middle of this broken place, an alien mother knelt down. Her skin was pale, her clothes torn, and her eyes red from endless crying. In front of her was a small grave. It was not made of stone or carved with care. It was just a mound of earth, covered with a few pieces of rock she had gathered. The grave looked weak and lonely, but to her, it was the most sacred place in the world. Her fingers touched the wet soil, and her lips trembled. "My child," she whispered in her alien tongue, her voice shaking. Every night since that terrible day, she had come back here. She had lost everything, her home, her people, her family, but the worst wound was the grave before her. It was where she believed her only child now slept forever. She pressed her forehead against the dirt, as if hoping the earth would answer her back. Rain mixed with her tears, and the world around her grew silent, as though even the wind respected her pain. She remembered the last time she had seen her little one. The war had come without warning. Human soldiers had raided the village. She remembered screams, fire, and the terrible noise of weapons. She had run, carrying her child in her arms, trying to find safety. But when she looked down, she saw blood on her hands, and her child's body grew cold. She never forgot the stillness of that tiny face. The mother had no choice. She dug with her own hands, cut by stones and roots, until a small pit was ready. She placed her child there, wrapping the small body with a torn piece of her own cloth. With shaking hands, she covered the grave, stone by stone, earth by earth. That night, she felt her soul break in two. Now, every time she returned, she hoped it was a bad dream. She hoped that maybe the grave would be empty, and her child would run into her arms again. But the grave never moved. It always looked the same, silent, cold, and merciless. Why? She cried into the sky. Why take my child and leave me behind? Her voice echoed through the ruins. No one answered. Only the sound of rain filled the air, but far away, unseen by her eyes, a shadow moved. A figure stood in the distance, hidden behind broken walls. A human. His clothes were dirty, his face rough, and his eyes carried secrets. He watched her kneeling at the grave, her body shaking with grief. He did not speak, did not step forward. He only stood there, silent, with something heavy in his heart. The mother stayed at the grave for hours. She talked to it as if her child could still hear her. She told stories of the past, of better days, of the laughter that once filled their home. Sometimes she even smiled through her tears, remembering the sound of her child's voice. Then she would break again, screaming into the earth, begging for the impossible. Her hands trembled as she placed a single flower on the grave, a wild flower she had picked from the ruins. It was small and fragile, yet to her it was the greatest gift she could give. "I will never forget you," she whispered. "Even if the stars burn out, even if the skies fall, I will love you always." She rose slowly, her body weak, her spirit broken. Her steps were heavy as she turned away. She did not see the human shadow step closer to the grave after she left. He looked at the mound of dirt with tired eyes. His hand brushed the cold stones, and for a moment, pain crossed his face too. Because he knew a truth the alien mother did not. Grave was empty. The child was not dead. The child lived hidden, weak but alive. And it was this human, this silent watcher, who had carried the child away from death. As the mother disappeared into the mist, the man whispered softly, as if speaking to her without being heard, "Someday, you will know." The rain kept falling, and the tiny grave lay silent under the storm, hiding its secret. The human's discovery, the night of the attack, was burned into the memory of one man. He was not a soldier of glory, not a commander, not even someone who believed in the war. He was only a human caught in the chaos, trying to survive while orders rained down from superiors who never cared about blood in the mud. His name did not matter to the world, but to one child. It would mean everything. He had been walking through the ruins long after the battle ended. Smoke rose like black pillars into the stars. The air was thick with the smell of ash, burnt metal, and something worse, the smell of death. Around him, broken walls leaned as if they too had given up hope. His boots crunched over shattered glass and bones. He tried not to look at the faces of the fallen, alien or human. All looked the same in death. But then, under a collapsed roof, he heard it. A sound so faint, he thought it was the wind. A small, weak cry. He froze. His breath caught in his chest. He waited. Again it came, soft, almost too fragile to believe. Not wind, not an animal. A child. His heart pounded as he pulled away the burnt wood and broken stone. Behind the wreckage, he found a small figure covered in dust and blood. It was an alien child, her chest rising and falling like a flickering flame. Her tiny fingers moved weakly, and her lips formed a broken whisper, though no words came out. For a moment, the human stood in silence. He was supposed to leave. He was supposed to walk away. The war had rules, and one rule was clear. Aliens were enemies. Saving one meant betrayal. If the wrong eyes saw him, he would be executed without question. But as he looked at the child, he saw something no enemy propaganda could erase. Not horns, not strange skin, not pointed ears. He only saw a child fragile, scared, and alone. He dropped to his knees. His hands, calloused and rough, trembled as he checked her breath. Weak, but alive. His throat tightened. He had no family left, no children of his own. Once he had dreamed of it, but war stole that dream too. And now, in this broken child, he felt the echo of what he had lost. "I've got you," he whispered. His voice was rough but gentle. Carefully, he lifted her. She was so light, it felt as if he was holding nothing but air. She whimpered, her head resting weakly against his chest. He looked around, making sure no one watched. Then he pulled his cloak tighter to hide her. Every step away from the ruins felt like walking against the fire of his own people. His ears caught the sound of patrols in the distance, human voices shouting orders. If they found him, if they searched him, both he and the child would die. He slipped through alleys, staying in shadows, heart hammering with every move. The girl coughed softly, her small body shaking. He tightened his hold. "Stay with me, little one," he murmured. Finally he reached a broken bunker, hidden under rubble where soldiers rarely went. Inside, it was dark and damp, but safe. He laid her down on a torn blanket, brushing the dust from her face. Her alien features looked so different from his, yet so innocent, like the face of any child. He tore a strip of cloth from his sleeve and used it to clean her wounds. He gave her drops of water from his canteen, holding her head gently as she drank. She swallowed weakly, but her eyes opened for the first time. They were bright, trembling eyes full of fear, yet also searching for hope. She looked at him as if asking a silent question. "Why? Why are you helping me?" He had no answer, only the truth in his heart. "Because you're alive," he whispered. "And no child deserves to die alone." Her eyelids fluttered, heavy with exhaustion. Before sleep took her, her lips parted, and for the first time she spoke a single fragile word. It was not in his language, but he understood. "Mother." The sound pierced him like a blade. His jaw tightened. He knew somewhere out there, a mother wept for this child, maybe kneeling at a grave that held no body. He knew he had taken a step that could never be undone. The child drifted into sleep, her breathing slow but steady. The human sat beside her, guarding like a silent wall against the darkness outside. In that moment, he made a promise he did not dare speak aloud. He would keep her alive. He would protect her. And one day, somehow, He would find the mother who cried for her child. The night grew colder, but inside the bunker, a small flame of hope had been lit. And outside, the war raged on, unaware that its greatest secret now rested in the arms of a human who had chosen mercy over orders. Hidden shelter, the bunker was dark, silent, and smelled of old rust. Broken pipes dripped water from the ceiling, forming small puddles on the concrete floor. Rats sometimes squeaked in the corners, but the man did not care. To him, this place was the only safe ground left in a world torn apart by war. And now it was a home, though only a fragile one, for the child he had rescued. He sat against the wall, watching her as she slept. Her small body rose and fell with each breath. She looked weak, her skin pale, but she was alive. That was all that mattered. Every day he searched for scraps of food. Cans left behind in ruins, half-burnt bread hidden in old kitchens, even wild roots he dug out of the ground. He boiled water on a tiny fire he made with broken wood, making sure the smoke never rose high enough for patrols to see. The girl ate slowly, her hands shaking when she held the food. Sometimes she could not finish a full bite, but he never forced her. He only smiled faintly, whispering, "It's okay, little one. Tomorrow will be better." At first she was afraid of him. Her wide eyes followed his every move, as if she expected him to hurt her. But with each passing day, her fear began to melt. She noticed how he gave her food first, how he wrapped her in his own cloak during cold nights, and how he never left her side for long. One evening, while the fire glowed softly, she reached out her tiny hand and touched his rough fingers. Her voice was weak, trembling. She whispered a word one he could not understand. But the meaning was clear. Trust. He swallowed hard, hiding the emotion in his throat. For years he had lived in silence, carrying only the weight of orders and guilt. But this child was changing something inside him. He had no name for it, yet only a warmth he thought he had lost long ago. The days passed, and she grew a little stronger. Sometimes she hummed softly, a broken tune from her alien world. It echoed in the dark bunker like a fragile song of hope. The man listened quietly, letting the sound remind him that life still had beauty, even in war. But danger was never far. One night, heavy boots echoed outside. Soldiers passed close, their voices sharp and loud. "Search this sector. No alien must be left alive." The man's breath froze. He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling the child to stay quiet. She held her breath, her small hands clutching his sleeve. The soldiers moved closer. Their shadows stretched across the ruined walls. For a moment, he thought they would open the bunker. His heart hammered in his chest. Then, after what felt like hours, the voices faded. The boots moved away, and silence returned. The child released her breath in a soft whimper. He hugged her close, whispering, "You're safe. I won't let them take you." But inside, he knew the truth. This hiding place would not protect them forever. Patrols were becoming more frequent. Supplies were running low. And sooner or later, someone would notice his absences, his secret movements. That night, as the child slept curled against him, he stared at the ceiling and made a silent promise. He could not keep her hidden forever. She needed more than food and shadows. She needed her mother. He remembered the way she whispered that word, "mother," in her sleep. Each time, her small face twisted in pain, as if her heart was breaking. He closed his eyes, guilt pressing heavy on his chest. Somewhere out there, a mother was grieving, believing her child was gone forever. He had seen her once, far away, crying at a small grave. He had not dared approach her then. But now he knew he had to. The risk was great. If the humans discovered his betrayal, he would be executed. If the aliens discovered him, they might kill him too. But he no longer cared. He looked at the sleeping child and whispered, "I'll take you to her. I promise." The fire burned low, throwing soft shadows across the walls. Outside, the war still raged. But inside that bunker, for the first time in years, hope breathed quietly in the dark. Mother's anguish, the alien mother walked alone through the ruins of her world. Her steps were slow, heavy, as if the ground itself tried to hold her back. Dust clung to her bare feet, and the sharp stones cut her skin, but she did not care. The pain in her body was nothing compared to the storm inside her heart. Every evening, she returned to the tiny grave. It was the only place that tied her to her child. She knelt in front of the mound of stones, pressing her hands against the cold earth. She whispered stories, sang soft lullabies, and sometimes simply wept until her voice broke. The war had taken everything from her, her home, her people, her hope. But losing her child was the wound that never healed. She remembered the warmth of small arms around her neck, the innocent laughter that once filled her nights. Now all she had was silence. Villagers who passed by sometimes stopped to watch her. They shook their heads. To them, the grave was a symbol of her weakness, of her refusal to move on. "She is broken," they whispered. "She has no future." But the mother did not hear them. She had no future to care for. Her past was buried in that grave, and her present was nothing but tears. One night, as she lay beside the mound of earth, she thought she heard something strange. A sound carried on the wind. A faint cry, almost like the voice of a child. She sat up quickly, her heart pounding. "Who's there?" She called, her voice trembling with both fear and desperate hope. But the ruins gave no answer. Only the wind whistled through broken walls. She searched the shadows, her eyes wide, but found nothing. Finally, she pressed her forehead against the soil again, whispering, "I'm losing my mind." Yet the thought lingered in her heart. What if? What if my child still lived? She shook her head violently. "No," she told herself. "I buried her with my own hands." I felt her body grow cold. There is no hope. Still, when she closed her eyes, she saw that faint glimmer. She saw her child's eyes open once more. It was madness, she knew, but it was a madness she could not kill. Days passed like this, her life trapped between grief and faint illusions. Each night she grew thinner, her strength fading. Hunger gnawed at her, but she cared little for food. The only hunger she felt was for her child's voice. Sometimes, she walked through the ruins of her village, searching the rubble. Her neighbors thought she was looking for supplies. But she knew what she searched for: some sign, some impossible clue that her child might still be out there. One afternoon, she heard whispers from two survivors. They spoke of strange sounds at night, like a child crying, one said. "Impossible," the other replied. No child could have survived. The mother's heart skipped a beat. She ran to them, grabbing the first by the arm. "Tell me," she begged. "Where did you hear this?" The man pulled away, annoyed. It was nothing. Just ghosts of war. Don't chase shadows. But she refused to let go. She begged, pleaded, until at last, with a sigh, they pointed toward the far ruins of the battlefield. "If you're foolish enough, go look for yourself," they muttered. That night, she went. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the ruins stretched before her like the bones of a dead world. She moved carefully, her eyes searching every corner. At first, she found nothing but silence. Then there it was again. A faint, broken sound. A cough, a whimper. Her breath caught in her throat. "Child?" She whispered into the darkness. "My child?" Her hands trembled. She stumbled forward, her heart racing faster than it had since before the war. But as she searched, the sound faded, swallowed by the night. She fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Tears streamed down her face. "Why do you torment me?" She cried to the stars. "If you are gone, let me follow. If you are alive, let me find you. Don't leave me in this endless pain." Her voice echoed across the ruins, carried away by the wind. She curled against a wall, broken, and rocked back and forth like a child herself. And while she wept, hidden in the shadows of the ruins, a pair of eyes watched her. Human eyes. The man who had taken her child stood far away, silent, unseen. His heart ached as he watched the mother's anguish. He wanted to step forward, to tell her the truth. But he knew the danger. Too soon, and both of them would die. So he turned away, disappearing into the night, carrying the secret with him. The mother, unaware, pressed her face into her hands and sobbed until dawn. The reunion, the journey through the ruins, was slow and dangerous. The human carried the child on his back when her legs grew too weak to walk. The broken land stretched wide, burnt fields, shattered homes, and broken machines of war lying silent like dead beasts. Every shadow hid a threat, every sound made him freeze. The child said little, but her eyes shone with growing hope. She held on to him tightly, whispering the same word again and again, "Mother." Each time, it gave him the strength to take another step. For days they traveled like ghosts, moving only at night, hiding by day. He gave her most of the food, keeping little for himself. His body grew thin, but his resolve grew stronger. Nothing mattered except bringing her back. Finally, one evening, as the sun sank behind black clouds, he saw a figure in the distance. The woman knelt before a small mound of stones. Her body was frail, her clothes worn, but he recognized her instantly. The mother. The child gasped softly, her tiny hand pointing. "Mother," she whispered, her voice breaking with joy. His heart pounded. They were close, but danger was closer. He scanned the ruins. Soldiers often patrolled this area. If they appeared now, the reunion would end in blood. Still, he knew this was the moment he had carried her for. He took a breath and stepped forward. The mother lifted her head at the sound of footsteps. Her eyes widened as she saw him emerge from the shadows. At first, fear crossed her face, fear of a human soldier. She scrambled back, her hands trembling. Then she saw the small figure on his back, her breath caught. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She stumbled forward, eyes wide with disbelief. The child reached out, her voice weak but clear. "Mother!" The sound shattered the silence. The mother collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She crawled forward, arms outstretched, sobbing as if her soul had broken free. The human lowered the child gently to the ground. She ran, stumbling, crying, but running into her mother's arms. The two clung to each other, shaking with joy and grief. "My child! My child!" the mother wept, pressing her face into the little one's hair. She kissed her cheeks again and again, as if afraid she would vanish. "I buried you. I thought I lost you forever." The child sobbed into her arms, whispering words only her mother could understand. Their voices mingled, raw and beautiful, like a song of life rising from the grave. The human stood back, watching. His chest ached, his throat tight. This was what he had promised, what he had risked everything for. And now it was real. But the moment of peace was short. Boots echoed through the ruins. Voices shouted orders. Soldiers. The human's head snapped toward the sound. They were close, too close. If they saw the child alive, if they saw him with the aliens, it would all end here. The mother pulled her child closer, fear filling her eyes again. She looked at the human, silently pleading. He stepped forward, placing himself between them and the direction of the voices. His hand gripped the scrap blade he had sharpened. His body shook, but his eyes were steady. "You found her," he whispered to the mother. "Now you must keep her safe." She stared at him, tears shining in her eyes. For the first time, her voice broke through her fear. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this for us?" He did not answer with words. Instead, he gave her a faint, tired smile. A smile that said everything, that even in war, even in hate, compassion could survive. The voices grew louder. The soldiers were close now, their shadows stretching across the ruins. The human turned toward them, blade in hand, ready to face whatever came. The mother clutched her child tight, hiding her behind her arms, her heart pounding in terror and hope. In that fragile moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The reunion had happened, but survival was still uncertain. The child was alive, the mother had her back, and one human stood as their shield. The ruins shook with the approach of war, but within them, a bond stronger than war itself had been born. The soldiers' voices grew louder, their boots crushing the gravel as they marched closer. The ruined village, once silent, now throbbed with danger. The alien mother held her child tightly against her chest, her body trembling. She knew the reunion was fragile, as if it could be broken in a heartbeat. The human stood in front of them, blade in hand, his back straight despite the weight of exhaustion. His eyes scanned the shadows, every muscle tense. He had made his choice long before this night, but now fate demanded that he prove it. "Stay behind me," he whispered to the mother, not looking back. His voice was steady, but inside, his heart pounded like thunder. The child peeked from her mother's arms, her wide eyes shining with fear. "Safe," she whispered, using the word he had taught her. He turned slightly, just enough for her to see his face. "Safe," he promised. His voice cracked, but the word carried all the strength he had left. The first soldier appeared, a beam of light cutting through the dark ruins. "Who goes there?" the voice barked. The human gripped his blade tighter. For a moment, time slowed. He could see two paths ahead. If he stepped aside, if he pretended the mother and child were not there, maybe the soldiers would pass. He could save himself. But then he remembered the child's weak cry the night he found her, the word mother whispered in her sleep, and the smile she gave him when he promised to reunite them. He knew he could never betray that. The second path was clear. Stand his ground, even if it cost him his life. He breathed in deeply, and with that breath, he made his final choice. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Identify yourself," one shouted. The human stepped forward, away from the mother and child, drawing their attention to himself. He lifted his hand slowly, his blade catching the faint moonlight. "I am here," he said loudly, his voice echoing through the ruins. "But you won't find what you're looking for." The soldiers narrowed their eyes. "What are you hiding?" "Nothing you need to see," he replied. Standing tall, the mother pressed her face into her child's hair, tears streaming down her cheeks. She understood what he was doing. He was drawing the danger onto himself, giving them a chance to flee. Her heart broke. This human, once the enemy, had given her back her child and was now about to give even more. The soldiers moved closer, suspicious. The human tightened his grip on the blade. His body ached, his strength was thin, but his spirit blazed. For once, he was not fighting for orders, not for victory, but for something far greater: love, innocence, and the bond between a mother and her child. "Run," he whispered softly, just loud enough for the mother to hear. "Take her." "Don't stop," the mother hesitated, her eyes wide with pain. "I cannot leave you," she whispered back. "You must," he said, his voice steady. "For her." The child clutched her mother's neck, whispering, "Safe, safe." As tears rolled down her cheeks, the mother kissed her child's hair, then looked at the human one last time. Their eyes met, alien and human, once enemies, now bound by something unbreakable. She saw no fear in him, only a quiet strength and a faint, tired smile. Then she turned, holding her child, and slipped into the darkness, her heart heavy but her hope burning brighter than ever. The soldier shouted, "Stop!" and rushed forward, but the human moved first. With a cry, he raised his blade. Standing in their path, the night erupted with the clash of steel, the shouts of men, and the pounding of footsteps. But far in the distance, hidden in the shadows, the mother ran with her child pressed against her chest. For the first time in endless nights of grief, she felt her heart alive again. Her child was safe. Her child was home, and though she did not know if the human survived, She knew one truth that would never fade. Humanity was not only war, not only cruelty. It was also mercy, sacrifice, and a heart strong enough to bridge two worlds. The stars above shone faintly through the smoke, as if the universe itself had witnessed the choice made that night, a choice that would echo in the hearts of both species forever. The humans promised the bunker was silent except for the crackle of a small fire. The human sat close to it, sharpening a piece of scrap metal into a blade. His hands were rough, his face tired, but his eyes kept drifting to the small figure lying under his cloak. The alien child stirred in her sleep, murmuring softly. Sometimes she whispered words in her own tongue, words he did not understand. But one word came again and again, "Mother." Each time he heard it, his chest tightened. He knew what it meant. He had seen the mother, broken and crying before a tiny grave, believing her child gone forever. He remembered her face, the way her hands trembled over the dirt. The image haunted him as much as the child's weak voice haunted him now. He stared at the blade in his hands. He could not keep this life hidden in shadows forever. Supplies were running out. The soldiers searched more aggressively each day. The girl was getting stronger, but also more restless. She needed more than food and safety. She needed her mother. That night, she woke suddenly. Her eyes, wide and glowing faintly in the dim firelight, looked at him. She whispered something in her alien tongue, then repeated it more clearly. Though he could not understand the whole phrase, he caught one word, home. He moved closer, his voice gentle. Home? She nodded weakly, tears in her eyes. Mother. Home. The human's throat tightened. He placed his hand carefully over hers. I know, he said softly. And I promise. I'll take you back to her. The words surprised even him. They came out like a vow, unshakable, undeniable. Once spoken, he could not take them back. The child stared at him, her lips trembling. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was small, weak, but it was the first smile he had seen on her face since he found her. That smile burned itself into his heart. From that moment, the human began preparing. Every step was a risk. He scavenged for food more carefully, choosing paths away from patrols. He mapped the ruins in his mind, noting where soldiers camped and where the shadows might protect them. At night, he taught the child to stay quiet, to hide at the smallest sound. The child learned quickly. Though weak, she was clever. She followed his hand signals, covered her small coughs with her sleeve, and listened when he whispered, "Not yet. Wait." Days turned into weeks, and the bond between them grew stronger. He spoke to her in his language, pointing at objects, teaching her the words. She copied him, her small voice shaky but determined. "Water," he would say, holding up the canteen. "Water," she repeated, smiling proudly. "Safe," he whispered, placing a hand on his chest. "Safe," she whispered back, touching her chest. Each word was a bridge between them, connecting two worlds that had once been enemies. But with each passing day, danger grew closer. Once, as he searched the ruins for food, he heard soldiers talking. They say some alien child was seen near the battlefield. Impossible. They're all dead. Still. Orders are clear. If we find one, we kill it and whoever hides it. His blood ran cold. He clutched the bag of food tighter and slipped back into the shadows. That night, as the child slept beside the dying fire, he sat awake, staring at the bunker walls. He knew the truth now. Time was running out. If they stayed, death would find them. If they moved, danger would hunt them. He touched the child's hair gently, brushing it away from her small face. She stirred but did not wake. "I will keep my word," he whispered. "I'll take you to her, no matter the cost." For the first time in years, his purpose was clear. He was not a soldier anymore, not a tool of war. He was a protector, a guardian. And if fate demanded his life, he would give it so that one child could return to her mother's arms. The fire burned low. Outside, thunder rolled across the night sky. The human lay down beside the child, closing his eyes for a few hours of rest. In his dreams, he saw the alien mother again kneeling at the grave, her tears falling like rain. But this time, he did not stay hidden. This time, he stepped forward, carrying the child in his arms. And in that dream, for the first time, the mother smiled. When he woke, the dream lingered like a flame in his chest. He knew what he had to do. Tomorrow, the journey would begin.